It was November 1975. Jimmy Carter had just been elected president. The number one song was "Love Will Keep Us Together" by Captain and Tennille. A gallon of gas cost 55 cents, and during the Thanksgiving break in 12th grade, I enlisted in the Army. I wanted adventure and the GI Bill to pay for college and to escape the small-town dullness of Pompano Beach, Florida. By enlisting early in the inactive reserves, I guaranteed my signal intelligence job in the Army Security Agency. With a heavy duffel bag in my lap and sweating like a pig in the South Carolina summer heat, the bus bumped along dirt roads through the woods to the real boot camp. Then it stopped. I stepped out and was greeted by the foul language, personal insults, and yelling of the drill sergeants with their smoky bare hats and perfectly squared away uniforms. If they wanted to instill fear, they succeeded. I was scared to death. Then, surprisingly, by the end of the second day, the really intense fear was gone. I had survived the first 2 days. I made a couple of friends. I felt the camaraderie of being with 49 other guys in my platoon. Basic training was about being constantly alert and instant obedience. It was making your bed to perfection, polishing your boots, inspections, doing push-ups, singing bawdy marching songs, and sitting in warm classrooms trying not to doze off. The long days could be trying on just 4 or 5 hours sleep. The drill sergeants could be mean, but I never experienced or saw any physical abuse other than being grabbed by the shirt once or twice. A big part of boot camp was M16 rifle training. I had never used a firearm, but listened carefully to the instructors about aiming, breathing, and trigger control. Eventually, I received an expert badge. In field training, I dropped to the prone position, pulled the trigger, and felt the punch in the shoulder, and watched the target 300 yards away fall. I couldn't believe I actually caused that to happen. Grenade training got everyone's adrenaline pumping the hardest. We got to throw 2 live grenades, but not before a ton of training with dummy grenades and some serious lectures about safety. CS gas, chlorobenzyl malonitrile, was just plain awful. This was the one training everyone dreaded. That's me in the gas mask fooling around, but soon discovered CS gas was no joke. We stood inside a small field house as it filled with a thick white fog of CS gas. It was no big deal with our mask on. Then the drill sergeant ordered our mask off. Within 2 seconds, my throat felt like it was filling with sand. I couldn't breathe, and my sweaty skin burned like fire. Here I am, exiting the gas room and getting ready to vomit. The culmination of basic training was a 15-mile hike on a warm, humid August evening. I carried about 30 pounds of gear, my M16, and wore a 2.5-pound helmet. It was grueling and hot, and I felt the blisters on my feet halfway through. Flew back down to Pensacola to learn my military occupation specialty, officially called Non-Morse Interceptor Radio Teletype Operator. School lasted about 6 months. I learned Morse code and the basics of signal intelligence. I graduated from school and received my orders. I was going to Japan. Okinawa, Japan, 70 miles by 7 miles. My island home for the next 476 days. I spent my 19th and 20th birthday on that coral island. At the water's edge near the base, you could still find rusted bullets and shells from the land battle there 32 years earlier. I remember walking to work one day and the sidewalk shaking from a small earthquake. On cooler days, I would jog around the antenna field, saying "Konnichiwa" to the farmers who worked the land there and recognized me. My friends and I did a lot of snorkeling in the clear water filled with colorful coral and clownfish. On my day off, I take the bus to the capital city, Naha. Roam around all day trying out my limited Japanese on shopkeepers, especially the phrase, "Banyo doko desu ka?" Where is the bathroom? But I concentrated on my education and took many CLEP tests, college level entrance proficiency exams, and I passed a lot of them. Combined with a couple of college classes I took with the University of Maryland at the Kadena Air Force Base, I received almost 2 years of college during my time on Okinawa. But boy, I was homesick. Finally, I checked off the 476th day on my wall calendar. From the airplane, the sight of the island of Okinawa getting smaller and smaller was one of the happiest of my life. After visiting family, I flew to Fort Hood, Texas, the third largest military base in the world, for my last 11 months of service. My unit's primary responsibility was maintaining our communication trucks and equipment. There was always some interesting training going on. We trained with the Army's last MASH unit. The mobile hospital deployed several times around Fort Hood. Our mission was to record their communications as they moved around. We set up in the woods, taking 12-hour shifts. The highlight of my time at Fort Hood was participating in Brave Shield, the largest military war games in the country. For 10 days, I drove a controller, a lieutenant colonel. It was awesome to see close-up M60 tanks zooming by at 30 miles an hour, as well as armed personnel carriers and a lot of helicopters. This is my friend Jim, also a driver, relaxing in some helicopter wreckage. Finally, after 3 years, my time in the Army had come to an end. In June 1979, I walked out of the administrative offices clutching my discharge papers. I remember the hot Texas afternoon sun and feeling like I was walking on air. I hopped in my 1970 Pontiac Le Mans and drove as fast as I could to get out of Texas. A couple of weeks later, after visiting family, I was living on the campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee. My hair was growing out, and I did not wear green for years. The freedom was exhilarating. I received my bachelor's degree in social work in May 1981, but I soon became disenchanted with being a social worker. There was a gnawing feeling inside me that I wanted to be free of all authority, to do what I wanted to do. So I dropped out. It was another great adventure of my life, but that is another story.